All right, so I think we have two different issues for, three for executive session?
Executive session, two, I think. that I
Two?
have, yeah.
Okay.
There was one legal matter, and I think that Dave had a personnel matter.
Personnel.
Just one. Yep. I'll make a motion to do it.
Okay.
Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any need to amend the agenda? I guess we do. We have taking off the Nature Conservancy's proposal. Was there any other amendments?
Yeah, three things, if you're willing to shoehorn them in at the last hour, they're relatively uncontroversial, I think. One is to accept the resignation from the OCCUD board and consider a possible appointment of a replacement to represent Pittsford on that board. The other is discussion of winter salt prices and the purchase order. And finally, discussion of fire department hose purchase that exceeds my $5,000 authority.
We have a motion?
So moved. Second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, and then anything on the minutes of the last meeting? I didn't see anything.
If not,
Look,
here you
look
go.
good to me.
Yeah.
Oh, I got a second.
Well, that was the idea, Joe.
Wake up here.
Yeah.
Anything on the orders?
I had a question, annual disaster recovery, $562, what might that be?
It's kind of an insurance policy that the town pays, I believe, to Nemrick, who handles our software applications. And it provides that in the event of a problem, they'll come down post haste and help us resolve it.
So is it a service contract?
Yes.
Sort of, that makes sense.
There's nothing else?
Do we have anything else? No?
Here's the two orders, the original one and the tonight's. Oh, yes. I should know by now to have that ready for you. 12,067.34. And here's payroll, Joe.
And town manager's report.
Thank you, Alicia. Our recent outreach efforts were successful in generating a fairly good response to the online sidewalk scoping study survey. I believe we had about 170 responses, and the survey was taken down on October 15th on the deadline as planned. The sidewalk scoping committee will review the community input we've received at our Tuesday, October 26th update meeting, and we'll be, I'm sure, then sharing information with our consultant at an upcoming select board hearing. The town's Veterans Day event will take place on Thursday, November 11th at 11 a.m. here at the town offices. We've locked in the music teacher at Lothrop together with some of the Lothrop School singers, the Pittsford Scouts for the pledge, the town resident Kaylee Carvey will perform taps as he has before. I think Kaylin Carvey, sorry. And Pastor Joel Tate from the Furnace Brook Wesleyan Church will preside. I'm now still looking for a keynote speaker and happy to take suggestions from anybody. The town sent out 11 letters to property tax payers delinquent for 2 or more years with balances of at least $1,000 in the hope for voluntary compliance. Thus far, I believe 4 or 5 have resolved to our satisfaction, either with full payment or with partial payment and an agreement in place that we will closely monitor. That deadline passed on October 15th, and so we will be referring, I believe it's 7 delinquent taxpayers to the town's tax sale attorney, who will then begin his work toward probably a December or January tax sale. So stay tuned for that. The town is hoping to retain Daniels Construction to perform the needed repairs to the Depot Hill Covered Bridge to be paid from VLCT insurance proceeds. In terms of our budget process, which will really begin in earnest next month, budget heads have recently received and filled out materials asking them to provide their budget plans, work plans, and capital proposals. This first meeting in November will constitute presentation of sort of a wish list without any kind of editing from those requests for budget authority. And of course, in the weeks afterwards, we'll all be looking at those numbers and trying to find savings where we can to arrive at a balanced set of budgets that the taxpayers can afford. The Dollar General road closure is already a moot point since the road is back open, but you know that it was closed for a couple of weeks while they installed the culvert and straightened out the intersection. I do have a bit of an audit update. We expect the full audit report in January or February, but Chad has provided a quick snapshot, and it's as follows. There was a general fund surplus of $86,000, bringing our fund balance up to about $250,000, $249 and change actually. He had one suggestion. He noted, of course, that the police cruiser replacement fund seems chronically underfunded. He suggests that with a healthy balance, the board might want to consider maybe a one-time transfer into that cruiser replacement fund so that we're not always kind of chasing our tail, even though we put aside $15,000 in the past every year for cruisers. Just a thought, so we can talk about that more at budget time. The highway fund surplus was in the amount of $183,000 and change, bringing the current balance out of the deficit mode and to a positive figure of $149,547. We did have some more state funding than we expected, I think because they weren't providing many grants in the COVID year. So some of that is played into this, although we did budget for a surplus, as you'll remember, to bulk up our balance. No real change to the village fund numbers. The water fund had a $36,000 deficit. We had some repair costs that were beyond budget. Sewer fund basically broke even, and Chad cites some savings associated with Bruce Babcock's retirement as one of the reasons for that. With respect to the bridge replacement project, VTrans accepted the board's letter's invitation to discuss the project in greater detail with members of the board and VTrans personnel present. So I was in touch with Alicia, our chair, and I think at least forwarded an email to Dave Mills. Maybe he didn't get it, I don't know. But I know Alicia talked with Dave. And after those consultations, it was decided that Alicia and Tom Hooker would be the two to represent the select board in today's Zoom conference. Again, this is today's Zoom conference meeting. We had Chief Hooker, Chair Malay, Butch Shaw, and myself, together with 4 V-Trans employees, including Kristen Higgins, Carolyn Coda, Jenny, whose last name eludes me, and Jamie French. There was an hour-and-a-half discussion to discuss the current design of the new bridge to be installed at the intersection of routes 7, 3, and Oxbow Road. The town reiterated the concerns of the board and those of many residents who have spoken out about the changes planned for the existing traffic flow through the bridge and beyond. The state provided a brief history of the design of this project and how it has morphed over time, and expressed confidence that their current design best addresses the issues of traffic flows, safety, and constructability, keeping in mind that 2 lanes of traffic must always be kept open at all times during construction, and they said incorporation of engineering best management practices. After further discussion, the state appeared willing to work with the town on such issues as lighting, guardrail design, and even emergency vehicle warning lights to be installed to facilitate the movement of emergency vehicles. The state reiterated its hopes that the project can begin in May of 2022 and be completed by the fall of 2024. There is an Act 250 hearing scheduled to take place in this conference room on Wednesday, October 27th, on several Act 250 criteria, mostly focusing, the state says, on changes to the design since the permit was originally issued back in 2004. The town's planning commission has requested party status and has identified Rob Spenceley and Mike Norris as its spokespersons for the purposes of that hearing. As to trees at the town offices, I'd like some more input, because there's an expression that goes that a camel is a horse designed by a committee. And I've had lots of different inputs, and it's hard for me to find the consensus. So let me just give you this summary. The town had contacted selectmen several weeks ago at the suggestion of Hank Pelkey, in the hope of rethinking the consensus select board plan to replace trees removed from town offices with trees to be removed from Joe Gagne's property, with thanks to Joe for his generosity. Only 2 selectmen authorized me to move forward with the suggestion of Al Roberge that might not be a successful strategy, and that those kinds of transplants might not be as successful in terms of survival rates as nursery stock. In any event, Chad Ujair recently met with Joe Gagne to discuss the project and identify trees for possible transplanting. I think Joe suggested at least 1 Christmas tree that could be pruned so that it didn't get out of control in terms of size. That was an idea that was rejected, I believe, in the board's previous discussion. So Chad and I discussed the matter again today, and he suggested maybe instead of replacing the trees that are gone with comparable large trees, maybe in view of the presence of power lines, the town might want to consider a different tack, such as shrubs or ornamental dwarf trees, to better avoid conflicts with power lines. So anyway, the calendar and clock are ticking. We probably need to make some decisions.
For the ground freezes, yeah.
Yeah, in some respects, maybe we shouldn't have opened it up for the discussion. Not that it wasn't a healthy and good discussion, but because everybody's an expert on trees, everybody has an opinion. But I'm trying to find 3 opinions that are on the same page.
Crab trees are beautiful. They
I was
blossom
just gonna
nice,
yeah.
They stay low.
Yeah,
You can
that
trim
wouldn't be
them nice.
bad.
They get too big, you cut them off, they come right back, beautiful. I'd say,
You don't have
That
any,
I would agree
I'd make
with.
a motion, we plant.
you don't have any flowering crab apples, Joe, do
You
you?
know, Chad came up and we kind of went over this afternoon.
I just made a motion for
And,
myself.
Oh.
went up and looked at some- I've got some spruce that they'd look nice, but power lines right there.
Yep.
And now, I don't know, there's no sidewalk out here on either side of the street.
Not
Right
at present.
now, Right now.
But is
yeah.
there a proposal for a sidewalk on this side of the street?
Well, surely, Joe, you took the online survey related to our sidewalk scoping study. And during that time, I'm sure you saw, but now have forgotten, that there was a discussion of a Plains Road sidewalk
Yeah.
to extend from the Dollar General sidewalk maybe as far as Pine Woods Road.
Yeah.
That's a suggestion.
Yeah.
And we've had some input which we'll discuss at a future meeting. So it could be.
But Chad and I think it's fair to say, we kind of agreed that maybe it'd better come back to the board and hash it out again that's where we're now at now.
Yeah.
And maybe some flower and crab trees, they don't grow too tall and they would look nice, but to put a
Was that my motion?
maple or an oak or an ash or anything under them power lines are asking for trouble. Even the spruce, I've got spruce up there, look nice, but they're as high as a power line right now, so that's not good.
Again, your offer is very much appreciated, but if there are sufficient votes, I'm just gonna go ahead and order together with Al Roberge's input, the proper number of trees for that area.
I say go for it.
I think that's a good idea. Did you made a
I made a
motion?
motion, yeah, I made a
I'll
motion.
second the
Nobody
motion.
seconded it, though.
No,
Did you
Hank
second
just
it?
did.
Oh, okay. Just
All in
seconded
favor, say aye.
Well, hang on,
What?
can
Discuss
we
it.
You wanna
discuss
talk,
it?
discuss trees more?
Yeah, don't try to shut me up.
That'd be hard to do.
I know. I couldn't try.
It would be,
I
you're
told you to
right.
get back.
Yeah, I know, I knew, I set you up so you could. I'm just throwing this out, I mean, is this the best time to be doing that at this point? Is it
Yeah.
getting too late?
Yeah,
I
it's a great
know,
time to
I know that
transfer.
fall and spring are probably the best
Okay,
times
so
in here.
okay, all right.
Yep.
Going much longer, you'd not.
Well, that's what I'm wondering, but yeah,
If you're
It needs to be
using, if
done
you're using bald
post-haste.
trees,
Yeah, they're bald, so.
yeah.
you can put them
Nursery.
anytime.
Yeah, it's the perfect time. We'll start
Yeah,
getting all the
perfect
fall
time.
rain
It's
and,
perfect because everything's dormant now.
Yeah, okay,
And go
all
good in
right,
spring.
I'm done my discussion.
that's it.
Yeah.
Move the question.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No. Oh, I,
Did you say,
He's
oh,
no-
you seconded it,
he's
now
not
you're a
opposed.
nay?
No, he's not opposed.
I just seconded it for discussion.
There you go, John, you have your tree
Yeah.
answer.
Won't be long.
Thank you.
You put that to bed now, okay.
Just remember where the sidewalk might be when you plant.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good point.
they're already pretty far back, but yeah, that is, yeah.
No, then you need to just keep them back, yeah.
In the salt, right, we were more
the
concerned about
salt.
salt.
By the way, has anybody noticed the new signage on the building and out front?
What new signage?
Here, for the town
Well,
office?
you're-
Yeah, our town office signage on the front entrance and on that brick outcropping or whatever on the,
Yeah.
that little green where the trees had been.
Sheesh, I'm
Those
not
were
very
both,
excited.
you know, obviously
I saw the
35 years ago and showing a lot of age
Yeah.
and kind of peeling and fading, and so we had Winning Image replace those.
Oh, cool. I didn't even notice.
Didn't notice.
I'll pay
I
attention
hadn't noticed
tomorrow.
it. I guess I
Did
did.
you notice-
I know where I'm going.
Oh, you
without
did notice
looking
that? I
directions.
was like, I've been here twice today, I
Yeah.
didn't, not observant.
Yeah, but did you notice it, or did you just know it was done and noticed it?
I saw it, I knew it.
Oh, you
was
saw,
done.
oh.
Yeah, yeah, 'cause it was, the paint was really bad on it.
Is that it for
That's
town
it.
manager's report?
That's it.
Any questions for John? All right, thanks, John.
Oh, by the way, I have forwarded a link to the Zoom meeting recording to all of you members and to Rick Conway and to Mark Winslow, thinking that maybe he would want to pass it along to the membership of the committee, or at least to Rob and Mike Norris.
Just for the record, Rob had to step down and Mark Payton is
Oh.
going to replace him because he had a conflict.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And the only other question I have is regarding it is there going to be someone present at the Act 250 hearing representing the select board, or is that?
I think that's one of the things we'll be discussing in terms of our litigation strategy. I mean, we had some input today from V-Trans, kind of wondering who is it that's speaking for the town. The board, the planning commission has made their position clear, and it may be that they look to one representative, one set of representatives from the town. That's the impression I get. So maybe the board will want to discuss among ourselves whether you want to simply allow the planning commission to speak for the town, or whether the board has its own position you'd like to advocate for, and who to advocate it.
Are we gonna discuss that in executive
Yeah,
session?
I guess we probably should.
Well, I would just like to suggest, I know the planning commission has already taken a position in a certain area. Representative from the legislative body, because they automatically have party status as well.
Mhm.
So. I think it's important, because it'll be 3 commissioners that don't have any prior knowledge of it.
Mhm.
It's actually District 8, that's, I don't know whether that was mentioned, but District 8 will be sitting in instead of District 1. So it'll be people from down in Bennington.
Oh, okay.
There's a lot of vacancies on District 1, is that the answer?
They
And
didn't
maybe
give
some
us a
conflicts, or-
reason as to why. It could have been, it could have been conflicts and so forth. It's John Casella, Mary Shaw, and, oh gosh, I can't think of the third one. I know them too. But anyways, just, because they'll be hearing it for the first time.
Okay.
It's their ex parte.
Oh, all right, yeah. Okay.
It's too bad that people that are familiar with the area wouldn't be involved instead of some people that may really not know the area too well.
Indeed.
Or maybe.
Well, they're
your
gonna
thought?
make a site visit, Joe, which I
Aye.
think is, they're gonna make a site visit.
Yeah.
And, members of the public can come to the Act 250 hearing.
Yeah.
I think a few people will probably come,
Mhm.
so. And make the case, and they'll judge it on the 10 criteria. There'll be 10 criteria that'll be discussed. And,
I think they identified, at least
They
V-Trans
identified-
identified 4 or 5
Yeah,
criteria
those will be discussed.
that were definitely going to be covered.
Oh,
You wrote it down, John.
Yeah, I've got it right here.
1, 4, 5.
9K, and 10. And I can tell you what those are, because I've got Act 250 summary here. And those criteria relate to, number 1, air and water pollution. Number 4, erosion and capacity of soil to hold water. Number 5, of course, transportation. Number 9K, public investments. And number 10, local and regional plans.
And people can request at the hearings of the commission to have additional, and that's up to the commission to decide.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. 'cause-
You know, like if someone shows, because they can file right up to the day before the hearing, so it can be quite challenging because the plans can change.
Mm.
And that will, of course, affect what transpires.
Right. Okay. Anything else on that?
No, well, the
now?
other thing, there was some question on the historical part with the state. What was,
Oh, it wasn't a question. The
Yeah.
Assistant Attorney General said that was already ruled against.
and.
Or that it wasn't a subject of
it
the
wasn't
hearing
the subject
coming
of
up.
the hearing.
Oh, I
We
guess it's the
asked
way
that
she
question.
worded it, because she's like, they agreed with us. It wasn't an historic grade.
Yeah, and we said, well,
And they
I thought-
mean,
the state
They
saying
meaning
it
the
was-
state, or the,
Not
no, the
historical.
Historical
who did you visit
preservation?
with? Historical preservation?
yeah, I have not heard back from historical preservation, so.
So that's what the attorney had alluded to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
One thing I'd like to bring up, I did discuss something about this with John. Back in November of 2017, Doug Bonneau came and met with the select board at the town office here, and John Bayette. Anyways, there was a lot of discussion, and Mr. Conway stated that the green in the area is historic area, and read from the January 8, 2015 AOT scoping report. A copy of this report of the historic district was presented to the select board and Mr. Bayette, as well as supporting pictures showing the green space in the past. Mr. Conway also stated there is an issue with removing the green for safety concerns, as Route 3 and Oxbow are not aligned properly. Mr. Conway presented information from February 18th, 2015 concerns meetings. And then in the scoping report, I've highlighted this out. The existing bridge is considered historic, and the proposed bridge will need to meet the historic requirements. And then it says, in order to phase construction, the gas island before the bridge will need to be removed. After construction, the island will be restored. Additionally, Route 3 may need to be detoured away from the intersection, obviously. And then in January 6, 2014, Caitlin O'Shea, Historic Preservation Specialist, Vermont Agency of Transportation, said that she's completed the Historic Resource ID for Bridge 108. It is located within the Pittsford Mills Historic District and adjacent historic properties. Please note that the green space is considered a contributing feature of the historic district. The properties have been identified in an ARC map. The railing and approach of the new bridge will need to be compatible with the historic district. And again, this was sent to Laura Stone from Ms. Caitlin O'Shea, Historic Preservation Officer. Then the ARC map has the green with the arrow here, and it's listed as historic on their map.
Interesting.
Imagine that.
So there's a copy for you,
Yeah, thank you.
and,
'Cause that's not anything like we heard today.
you know, well, I'm just so glad that at least I knew what was going on, because, you know, the state says a lot of things, and then this thing is so huge that it's just, it's hard to get your mind around. It's literally 1,000 pages right now.
Jeez.
Oh, God.
And Tom, I'll give you a copy of that.
Ridiculous. Yes, it is.
And then this I got off of, I think I've got it off the Act 250 website, but anyways, it is state. I've got 3 copies. It was October 7th. Regards the bridge. It's a fact sheet, and they're saying, second paragraph, the Bridge 108 project will replace the existing bridge, which is in satisfactory to fair condition. So at least everybody, don't be worried about driving over that bridge according to this fact sheet. However, I do want to see the bridge replaced. And
Yeah.
I'd like to see it start in the spring under the 2015 plan. So there'll likely be a discussion about the historic part. I think it'll probably,
No, that's good to know. It sounded like today, from what we heard, it was dead in the water, that part of it, so,
Dead, that's, and we mentioned it.
yeah. So, all right, good to know.
yep. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
I'll give you, you're gonna end up.
Oh, thank you. Any select board member remarks?
Yep.
Okay.
So, I was contacted by the person who had contacted me before about the stump dump access. Evidently, the town fixed it. It looked better, but then I guess when they or one of their friends backed in there to dump stumps, they had to use four-wheel drive to get out. So maybe that should be rethought, whatever they put in there for fill. Maybe it wasn't quite coarse enough.
Yeah, I guess to hear Chad say it, maybe the staff should be advised to tell people they don't need to go all the way to the stump dump, because they're more than happy to move anything that's left in that general area. But yeah, I mean, we did earlier to ask them to deal with it with putting some material down, which I think they did, but it's
Well,
not,
it
it's
appeared
not
they did.
satisfactory.
Well, it
Yeah.
made it worse, I
Ah,
guess.
jeez.
Just all I know is what I'm told.
Yeah.
I don't go to the stump dump. but
I'll pass it
I'm
on to
just-
Chad
I don't-
again.
Just
Maybe some signage, drop your load here as opposed to way over there. So to speak, sorry. Moving
a
on.
little different wording might have been better, but okay.
In retrospect, I would have to agree.
Anyone else?
No.
Okay. Any public comment tonight? You're on the agenda, so. Okay then. All right, let's go to old business. Update on VLCT efforts for hiring a new town manager.
Yes, Alicia, thank you. I have forwarded some kind of customized town manager job description and town profile description information using VLCT's templates, and have forwarded them to Rick McGuire, who's our consultant from VLCT. I also happened to see him at the town managers conference last week, and we updated each other on the process. He said he plans to be speaking to each and every one of you for 40, 50 minutes to get your impressions on what you're looking for in the next town manager. So hopefully you'll be ready for that call when it comes.
What?
What, yeah, so is he doing that, does he want us as a group?
No,
Or is he
he's gonna call you
individually.
Each individually?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't mind doing it sometimes.
Yeah. It might save everybody a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe he feels that he'd get more candor one by one. I have no idea.
Okay, all right. Whatever. I don't know when I'm gonna find 45 minutes,
Well,
but,
that's it, yeah. Pick a time and
yeah.
we're here and do it. Then if anybody else has anything else, maybe we could contact him. Do it that way.
To put it this way, I'm not trying to insert myself in this
Right.
process.
Oh, I know you are.
So maybe Alicia could speak
Alicia
to
can
him
talk to
about
him,
what his
say,
plans are
yeah.
on behalf of the board.
So I did do that already. I spoke with him
did
on the
you?
phone for at least an hour.
Good.
But he was very, and I said that we had discussed as a board, you know, because I reached out to all of you guys before I talked to him on the phone, right? So,
Right, yeah.
and just to make sure I had everything, and he really he felt that's the part of this process that he does, is to talk to everyone individually. So,
Yeah, that's fine,
That's fine.
yeah.
so that's that.
Okay.
So that's it. That's where we're at.
That's all I got.
Okay. All right, Bob, discussion of further implementation of Declaration of Inclusion. And first of all, thank you for being willing to move to this meeting instead of last meeting, because that was already a 3-hour meeting,
Yeah.
so.
Thanks for letting me do that.
And just for background, Bob, everybody in tonight's packet has the notebook on inclusion that was handed out, I think, at the VTCMA conference.
Oh, good. Okay.
So that's, while they might not have had a chance to read it, they have it in front of them, in case you
And
wanted to mention it.
I have a small packet too, just for you to distribute to the board. Well, thank you, Madam Chair, and I want to thank the board for adopting the Declaration of Inclusion just about a year ago. Second town in Vermont to do so, and I think it was followed by Brandon. And then now we have probably 30 or 40 towns that have either adopted it or are considering it in some active way. And we've found in calling around that many of the larger towns have already created a committee for, and they have various names, Equity Committee or Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, and one of them has Justice, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. So, but a lot of towns are being proactive, but we're still suggesting that they adopt a declaration of inclusion just as a way of going public and kind of facilitating and endorsing the work of the committee. So we think it's the right thing to do for the equity and diversity of Vermont, and we think it's the smart thing to do to boost the economy. If we're successful in letting the world, so to speak, know that we want people in Vermont, then it'll help the economy. And that brings me to the census that was just completed, which shows that over the past 10 years, Vermont's population grew by barely 2%, and some counties, and I think Rutland may be one of them, actually lost population. And so you might say a stagnant or dwindling population in the state, and an aging population, just look at us around the room here.
Yeah, exactly, and elbow him, speak for himself, yes.
To a lady first, of course. That's not a good combination for the economic stability of this state. And I mean, obviously, we need younger people to support, our fragile infrastructure and the rest of the state. So, so now, what about the implementation? Well, I suggest three things, and going public with the fact that the town has adopted the Declaration of Inclusion, and to some degree that has happened. I know John has placed a what do you call it, a attachment on the town website, and I know it's posted in the library.
It was in our last newsletter as well, I believe.
Okay, in newsletter, and that's good, and we might consider it for the annual report, which is being drafted soon, for the in preparation for the town meeting. So, and in any outgoing newsletters or anything else by the town, I mean, certainly towns with an economic development arm, it would be a place to include it. And so the second way to implement is to, what I call, do a deep dive into the town's ordinances, policies, hiring practices, police protocols, and so forth, to try to root out any explicit or implicit bias that may be there, that we may be, probably unintentionally there, but still it may be there. And so, and there are, I understand there are, that ARPA funds can be used for that purpose, for the purpose of possibly hiring a professional to take a look at those town documents.
We had some sticker shock when we heard at the conference that Middlebury had spent $32,000 on such a project.
Yeah, they hired a couple of in-state consultants to help them with that process. Yeah, I'm not sure why it costs so much, and hopefully it won't cost the town anywhere near that much. But and I believe there are grants available from various foundations. And then the third way we can implement is to create opportunities for new residents and anybody from what might be considered a minority group to gain a sense of belonging in the town. And how do we do that? Well, it could be I don't know, something a Pittsford Day, perhaps.
The Village Farm, I know, is doing like a welcome to Pittsford packet that
Right.
they hand off to people in concert with the library, I think.
Right, exactly right. And so that's a way certainly to welcome people, and we do that, certainly with anyone who moves to the town. I'm actually part of that, and I've delivered some of those packets, and people really do light up and smile, and gee, you're the first one who's come by to say welcome to the town, or our neighbors came and welcomed us, but we're glad to see you too, and so it's good to hear things like that.
Yeah.
So. Just create opportunities, and there may be a discussion series can be launched by the library. I'm not sure exactly how to go about that, but maybe it can be done. So basically, what I'm saying is we have a Declaration of Inclusion now. Now is the time to be sure that people really do feel welcome and fairly treated when they get here. So That's all I have to say tonight, and I'll give John some packets to hand out that summarize a little more detail of the remarks that I just made.
Thank you, Bob.
All right.
And one thing I'll mention is that at this VTCMA conference, I know I saw you at the town fair with your partner Al Wakefield, talking about your work. And you two were also at our VTCMA conference virtually. And we learned from the folks who run VTCMA, which is in league with VLCT, that they're working on creating templates and figuring out how to present trainings to towns who might want to move forward with their equity, diversity, and inclusion work, DEI they call it. And so there may be some guidance forthcoming for this board coming from an authority like VLCT in the coming weeks or months, I gather. Is that your understanding?
Yes, so that's, it's really great to be partnering with the Vermont League and the town managers. And we're in the process of speaking to all of the 11, I think it is 11 regional planning commissions around the state. So, which of course all towns are members, so that gives us another opportunity to reach into the towns. So, yeah, there's one example here from the city of St. Albans, talking about their diversity, equity, and inclusion committee. So, thank you very much for the time on the agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you very much.
One for each of you.
I was waiting for my packet there, Dave.
What's
I
that?
was waiting for that before I moved on.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize they were all printed out. I thought it was a longer.
Okay. All right, new business. Consider appointing town rep to regional emergency management committee.
Yeah, they're kind of rejiggering emergency management, and the latest is to create a regional committee. And they would like to have appointments made to it from each town in our region to sit on this board, at least through May, at which point there could be further discussion of reappointments or what have you. But for now, they're looking to get started with its work. The main delegate will be the Emergency Management Director, and that's Jason Davis for Pittsford. But they're also looking for a second representative, and Chief Hooker's been kind enough to offer to serve at least through May.
All right. Do we need to make a motion on that, or just?
Yes,
Yep.
please, it needs to be appointed.
Okay.
So move.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. There, I got back at you.
There's another one coming.
And then, all right, hose quotes.
Yes, that is in tonight's packet. There's about 5 or 6 quotes that Chief Hempel solicited because they're in need of replacement hoses. They had a hose inspection done,
We had hose testing.
hose testing done, I'm sorry. And that resulted in their realization that some of their hose needed to be replaced because it
I
was,
think we lost like 1,100 feet.
yeah.
Oh, yeah?
That hose is probably, big large diameter hose.
So anyway, there are 5 or 6 quotes there, and I think the preferred vendor is HSE, is that correct, Chief?
That's correct.
There is one lower bid. Their bid, by the way, is
$7,000.
$7,620. And the bid from the second low bid, Fire Tech FTS, was $6,600. But I think there's some reasons that the fire department would like to go with the second lowest bidder of the 5 or 6. And that has to do with maybe a poor customer service from
Had some problems
FTS in the
with it, yeah.
past.
Yeah. Plus, this is a newer hose that we want to try. It's got a better jacket on it.
More
Hopefully,
rugged.
it's a lot ruggeder, and hopefully we get a longer life out of it. And it's a 2-year warranty on it too, which the others don't have. So,
So that's beyond my $5,000 authority,
Yeah.
so I wanted to run it by you folks.
What was the two different ones though? There was two options with the hoses, but
Yeah,
and
there's-
you're going with they want to go with
They
this
wanna
one?
go with that one, yeah.
The quality of this
It's, yeah, it's a better jacket on the
is
outside,
superior to the,
yeah.
And I think if we had to do again, we might not even have requested a bid from this low bidder.
No, probably
because of
not.
our sour taste from the
Right,
previous
past,
ones.
so, yeah. I think you had like five bids, and that was, one of like, what was the 70, was it 76?
7620, yeah.
Yeah.
I move we go with that bid.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Very good. I'll
Alrighty.
let Chief Hempel know unless Tom beats me to it.
You probably call him, what the hell, make it.
Um,
And then, all right, salt purchase too.
Yes, it's that time of year, if you can believe it, on a 70-degree day like today. But it's coming, as Dave Mills has pointed out, we're gonna pay for it. We have three
Sunshine
suppliers.
you are.
We have three suppliers we typically work with that dominate the area. Appalachia, Cargill, and American Rock Salt. We really haven't done much business with American Rock Salt. It's usually been Appalachia or Cargill. The last few years, it's been Appalachia because they've had very good customer service. Sometimes, years past, Cargill would maybe give some preference to the state, which is the big 800-pound gorilla in purchasing, which is, I suppose, understandable. But we've worked with Appalachia instead. This year, we heard from them, probably because they import all their salt from exotic locales and probably are dealing with supply chain issues. Their last year's quote of $68.50 has gone up this year to $93.25. So
That's
they're-
Appalachia.
That's Appalachia. The other quotes are $72.31 from Cargill, which is still about $5 more than last year. And we have a $78 quote that just came in from American Rock Salt
Okay.
And that's per ton?
per ton. Yes.
if we went with the lower bid of the three, are we asking for trouble by doing that, or could we feel good about it?
I think that's such a wide gap in the pricing that you almost have to go with Cargill, but it's always good to have a plan B, and maybe we can talk with American Rock Salt about whether they'll allow us to reserve a certain amount of tonnage if we need it. I mean, these are kind of loose contracts. They don't penalize you if you don't take the full 1,100 tons you sign up for. I guess probably because there's so many other customers out there. So I would say, if I was Chad, and I'll suggest it, that we lock in the low price from Cargill, but also play some footsie with American Rock Salt without any commitments.
The other, yeah, I would agree with that. The other thing I would like to see us do, if there's room in our new
Stockpile
mega
more.
facility down there, to start getting some extra salt in now, just have it sit there,
won't spoil.
at least part way through the winter, until we know we're out of the woods, because we don't wanna get caught not being able to get any salt.
And that could happen this year.
It could,
We
yes.
got to some pretty desperate times 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah, we did.
yeah.
Very good. I'll pass that on.
Okay.
Was there a motion?
I'll make
and
a
second?
motion to,
I'll second it.
All
Go
in
with
favor?
70.
Nope,
Yeah.
sorry.
You're going with Cargill then?
yes.
Yes,
Cargill.
Cargill.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, and then our CUD rep is resigning, but Samantha Jackson. And we also have a new candidate.
Yeah,
Who's
I mean,
interested?
it may be that you want to take some time and advertise the spot, but I know we advertised for several months before we got Samantha stepping forward. It's not a glamour position, there's no money, and it's highly technical. She had a passion because she wanted better service for the community. She has to step down. We have a new resident in town, Tony Ferraro, who has an extremely impressive resume in terms of work in the power and logistics types of industries, and that might translate well into this, and he seems gung-ho to make himself useful in his retirement. And if you'd like, you could appoint him now. He's willing to be appointed, but he's also offered to come in if you'd like to kick the tires and get to know him a little bit.
I'd say let's grab him.
We have a spot, and we don't want to send him away.
No,
I would make a motion to appoint him.
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 But I will let him know he's welcome to come and introduce himself.
Yeah.
I know, that would be
I'd
awesome.
like to meet him.
We also
yeah.
still have a vacancy for the alternate position, because while I'm alternate on paper, it'll probably be good to have someone else who
Someone,
can
yeah.
step in if
Yep.
needed.
Okay, sounds good.
Good, thank you.
Nobody has come forward for the second position.
No, but we will advertise for it.
Advertising.
Well, I suppose barring anything further, that ends the open part of our meeting.
Okay.